TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
And we're back like we never left. It's Live Zone from Live Zone Sports here with you. I'm, as always, here with Mozzie. Mozzie, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. We're here with a live five list, as always, every Friday. Unfortunately, we had to record a few days beforehand, so it's going to look like it's not live, but I promise you that it is. We're then going to go into some Thanksgiving games that we have for you guys. Thanksgiving performances. We're going to look at the top 5 Thanksgiving performances of the last 25 years. Mozzie, let me know what we're getting into first here.
All right. So, yeah, as Live Zone said, the most memorable performances on a Thanksgiving Day game in the last 25 years. This is coming out on Friday, so it will include 2024. I don't think we're expecting anybody to put up crazy numbers, but who knows? We might have to edit this out. So the date span is 1999 to 2024. That's 25 years. Before we get into the list and go each by each that we have, I'd like to give a couple honorable mentions and shout outs to some players who didn't make this list because of the time frame that we put it. We put it the last 25 years so we could connect with the people that we can connect with. All respect to the older generations and everybody. We'll get to a Thanksgiving Day list of the 25 in from 1975 to 2000, and that will be a fun list as well. But shout out Randy Moss in 1998, 3 touchdown catches, 163 yards on 3 receptions in a 46-36 win over the Cowboys. You're going to be hearing the Cowboys a lot on the bad side of these things. How about every single one of them? Also, we got Barry Sanders in 1997, 3 touchdowns, 167 yards in a 55-20 win. And then finally, the one highlight for the Cowboys in this entire episode is going to be Emmitt Smith in 1996, 29 carries, 3 touchdowns, 155 yards. He accounted for over half of the total yards for the Cowboys in that game. They won 21-10 in that game on the back of Emmitt Smith. And honestly, that might be the last bright spot that the Cowboys had since their last Super Bowl win, which is pretty sad. Pretty sad. That being said, though, those are the honorable mentions. So shout out Randy Moss, go. Shout out Barry Sanders, a go. Shout out Emmitt Smith, a go. There's a lot of goats coming on these lists, though, that were in the past 25 years as well. We're starting our lists with number 5. And I'm going to kick it off today. I'm going to start my list off with LeSean McCoy in 2014 on a Thanksgiving Day game. Listen, my list is comprised of people at all different positions. I have 2 quarterbacks and the rest are all different positions. I like to highlight every spot I can and what people are succeeding in their spots. So looking at LeSean McCoy, let's look at his numbers. It wasn't off the chart scary or anything, but it was impressive to watch. I remember watching this game. He had 25 carries, 159 yards, and a touchdown in a win over the Dallas Cowboys, 33-10. And again, I said I watched this game, and the reason why I remember this game so vividly is this is when I found out how shifty and shady LeSean McCoy was. This man was making defenders miss all over the field. They were trying to tackle him, and he's already 3 yards past them. And this was on prime time on Thanksgiving, right before I'm about to eat turkey, and it blew my mind as a child. I was 17 years old at the time, and I was like, this guy is doing things I really haven't seen done since a Reggie Bush in college. And it was truly a sight to see. 25 carries was the most carries he had in a game all season, period. Of course, it came on the biggest stage. He was just out there making people miss. He won the player of the game at the end. I think they call it the Gobble Award or something like
Yeah,
that on Thanksgiving.
They changed it like 3 different times. And one time it was called the CBS Award. The other time it was called the Gobble Award. It was called a bunch of things.
Yeah. All I know is he ate a turkey leg and won an award at the end of it, but it was getting the win. And this was a Dallas Cowboys team that wasn't like, this is a classic Dallas Cowboys team. Like, this is a Tony Romo led with Dez Bryant, Jason Witten. Like, they had a decent defense as well, but that offense was high powered, and Philly held them to 10 points. But LaShawn McCoy alongside a classic and Darren Sproles in that combined for a great win for Philly. And shout out LaShawn McCoy. I had to put a running back in here since I couldn't have the people that fell outside the top. The 25 years, I'm putting Shady McCoy in there. So Live Zone, who's your number 5?
It's surprising that you asked that. Unfortunately, I have to reload my system here. But I have Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly, defensive player, the only defensive player that I have up here in the last 25 years that really showed me something on Thanksgiving Day. He ended up putting up 7 tackles on a Dallas Cowboys team, as you were saying. The big Dallas Cowboys with Tony Romo, with Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, and all them. And even the great offensive line that they had back then, and 7 tackles, and then he had 2 interceptions for 49 yards. After that, he actually had a pick 6 as well. And the Carolina Panthers ended up winning the game 33-14. Now, the reason why I have him on here is because when we talk about these lists, we have a lot, and I mean a lot of offensive play. We have a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of running backs, a lot of wide receivers. Nobody ever talks really about the defensive side when it comes to big games like this. So for that reasoning, when I saw this, I looked at this and I was like, okay, 2 interceptions, almost had 3, but he dropped one in that game. Had 2 interceptions, ran for 49 yards, had 7 solo tackles against a very good Dallas Cowboys team at the time. I couldn't pass him up. I had to put him on here. So he ends up coming through on my number 5 list. Maybe should be a little bit higher because he's the only defensive player on my list, but I'm going to stick with him at 5.
I love the pick. I put him at my 4 slot. I did put him above McCoy because of the defensive side of things. Only defensive player on my list as well. Like Live Zone said, 7 tackles in that game, 2 interceptions, could have had 3, 1 for a touchdown. He literally was playing like Brian Urlacher on the Bears. He reminded me so much of how he played in that. He was running the offense. He set the tone for everybody on that team to play hard and win this game. Like you said, the offense was dynamic for the Cowboys. That defense holding them to 14 points is truly amazing. You had Tony Romo at quarterback. You had Darren McFadden at running back. You had Cole Beasley. You had Jason Witten. You had Dez Bryant on the offense. Like, that was a stacked up team. Holding that defense, holding them to 14 points was amazing. This was the year where Carolina went 15-1 on the year. Shout out to Luke Kuechly, also setting the tone for the defense and actually having when Tony Romo got sacked in this game, he actually broke his collarbone in this game. A little testament to how ferocious this Carolina defense was, and Luke Kuechly being the leader on it, again, set that tone. We saw Matt Castle come in the fourth quarter of this game, and Carolina just continued to do their thing. But shout out to Luke Kuechly. Really loved watching him play. I always knew if he was on the defensive side, it was going to be a good defense.
Yeah, I mean, with the Carolina Panthers, I have to agree with you. We don't look at the Carolina Panthers as one of the best defenses, especially when they went 15-1 that year with Cam Newton. But the reason why that they were so good is because they could rely on their defense, and it opened up the field for a guy like Cam Newton, because you got the offense on the field and you got the offense going, right? So for me, Luke Kuechly, definitely on my list. I like how you have him at 4. He probably should be 4 on my list, but because of this man right here, he is not my number 4. Listen, I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, the Detroit Lions play every single year on Thanksgiving, but I have 2015 Calvin Johnson at my number 4 pick. Listen, I could not put him over the 3 guys that I have above him, but he's still one of the best Thanksgiving players that we have ever seen in a Lions uniform, in an NFL uniform, right? So in 2015, let me just go over some stats here. It was a blowout win against the Philadelphia Eagles. It was 44-13. Calvin Johnson ended up putting up 8 receptions, and he ended up getting 93 yards. But here's the thing. With all that, right? 8 receptions for 93 yards. That's already like, okay, you didn't even need 10 receptions for that. That's more than 10 yards down that you get, or a reception that you get the ball. Not even just that, the man had 3 touchdowns. He had the hat trick against a good Philadelphia Eagles defense, and I'm sorry, it was 45-14, not 43-13. But Megatron, one of the best receivers of all time. I can't put him above Randy Moss or Jerry Rice, but I will say he is number 3 on my list. But when it comes to Thanksgiving Day, I do have to agree with you, because we were talking about this off camera. Megatron is the best receiver that we have seen on Thanksgiving Day.
Absolutely. I'm a little worried you put him so low on the list. I kind of know which direction your list is going. If I had to bet, I bet you have 3 quarterbacks left on your list. And I probably know the order as well, but I'm going to save it so you can give it for the people. I'm going to have Calvin Johnson on this list, but not next. Next, at number 3, I have a rookie phenom entering the league, RG3, 2012 Thanksgiving Day game against who else but the Dallas Cowboys, of course, turning up, beating the Cowboys 38-31 in what a game that wasn't as close as the score showed. The Washington Redskins at this time, yes, Washington Redskins at that time, were handedly winning this game and let Dallas into the game at the end. So the 31 points is kind of a fluke on that end. But let's look at what Robert Griffin III brought to the table in this game. You know, he threw 3 touchdowns, 311 yards. A couple of his touchdown passes were to some classic names. Pierre Garçon with over a 60-yard touchdown catch and run. And Santana Moss, one of the GOATs that gets forgotten just because he doesn't have all the bling and everything. That man was nasty, bro. Santana Moss could make some catches that only like Calvin Johnson-esque players could make. It was truly remarkable. He had 3 touchdown passes in the first half alone. He had 4 touchdown passes for the game. I believe I said 3 for the game earlier, but I meant 4. 3 in the first half. You know, he also made it happen with his legs. That's why he was drafted so high in the position. He opened up the field with his legs to leave it open for the passes. And again, a Tony Romo-led Dallas Cowboy team got whacked on Thanksgiving again. Little fun fact, Tony Romo started out 5-0 on Thanksgiving Day games and then proceeded to lose, I believe, 6 in a row. Check my stat on that, but it might be 5, it might be 6, but he had a major downfall. But RG3, this game was truly something to watch. Everybody going into this game was looking at, oh, can the rookie play with Tony Romo? Because Tony Romo had kind of established himself at this point. And
Kind of.
everybody looked at it and they were like, oh, I don't know how this one's going to go. And then he just lit it up.
Yeah. No, I definitely like the pick. There's a reason why I couldn't put him on my list. RG3 was my number one honorable mention for people that were in the last 25 years. The reason why I could not put him there is because I'm going to bring you the GOAT. I'm going to bring you Tom Brady. So Tom Brady, not a lot of Thanksgiving games, but when he did play, he was phenomenal. Tom Brady, in 2010 Thanksgiving performance, 341 yards, going off for 4 touchdowns as the New England Patriots killed the Detroit Lions 45-24. So not only did we see the GOAT beat the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, we also saw him blow them out. So for the people that say, oh, the Detroit Lions are the team to watch in Thanksgiving, Tom Brady came through and beat them on their own turf. So I couldn't look past that. I know why you put RG3 there. I understand the run game, but when you look at what Tom Brady was doing at this time in this period with the players that he had with him, young Gronk, a young Aaron Hernandez, young Julian Edelman, Brandon Tate for everybody that knows the Brandon Tate lovers over there. Danny Woodhead was another guy. Kevin Falk at the end of his career. Tom Brady really made it look too easy with these guys against a very good Detroit offense. So for me, I had to put him up here.
I understand why you put him up there. Unfortunately, Tom Brady did not make my list in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Moving ahead to number 2, I have the aforementioned Calvin Johnson. All right. Now, I put him so high for a couple reasons. One, he's goated on Thanksgiving. I could have picked a couple games. The one where the stats stood out is 2015 Megatron Calvin Johnson. 3 TDs, 8 receptions, 93 yards. 7 years straight, he caught a touchdown on Thanksgiving. 7 years in a row. Pretty crazy. Now, shout out to Matt Stafford, who had 5 TDs in that game. He's also not on my list. The reason being is 3 of those were to Calvin Johnson, and those 3 touchdown passes that Calvin Johnson caught, only Calvin Johnson on that team could have caught them.
Correct.
Only him could have caught them. He was going up against a rookie cornerback for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they put him one-on-one 2 times against him, and he went over top and to the side, caught it twice over him like that, and then they were like, oh, let's put 2 people on him. Oh, let me just toe tap the sideline for my 3rd one and shake it off like nothing. I didn't even get hit, didn't even fall to the ground. The man was built different. He was built different. There was a little bit of everything in this game shown of his game. So he caught the slant route, got the yard after the catch, caught the contested touchdown passes. He was able to block for his teammates. He was able to be a menace in every aspect of the game, really opening up the field for the Lions and allowing Matt Stafford to air it out and throw 5 TDs. If he wasn't on the field, I see Matt Stafford throwing another TD, maybe 2, maybe getting 4 TDs, 3 reasonably, but the 5 I don't see happening. That's why I didn't put Matt Stafford on this list, because if it wasn't for Calvin Johnson in the game, I don't think he has the numbers. So I'm giving the respect to Calvin Johnson, as well as I already had 2 quarterbacks on here. I wanted to highlight what he had. Calvin Johnson, number 2 on my all-time Thanksgiving players in the past 25 years.
Hey, I don't hate it. I definitely respect it. Like you said, Calvin Johnson is the wide receiver to look out for on Thanksgiving Day in the early 2000s and the late 2000s. He was just that damn good. And if you didn't believe he was that damn good, well, he definitely proved you wrong in a Detroit Lions uniform. So I understand why you have it there. I'm actually going to go over to a team that we have been talking pretty bad about in this in this lineup here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put Tony Romo up here. Yes, sir. 2006. Now, hear me out. This is the reason why I'm putting him on here, okay? In 2006, uh, Thanksgiving, he had 306 yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a convincing victory, 38-10. This is the reason why I put him up here right now, all right? 5 touchdown passes, number one. Number two, which is second, because there's 2 people tied with first. One of them made this list and one of them did not make the years for what we were doing on this list. So he's number 2 in touchdown passes on Thanksgiving with 5 in one game. All right. The second reason is because we talk about Tony Romo and how he throws ducks all the time and how his percentage was not great in his career. In this game, he threw 76%, 22 of 29. You can't get much better than that. That's something that I would expect from a guy like Tom Brady or a guy like Peyton Manning. I would not expect that from Tony Romo. So for those 2 reasons right there is the reason why he made number 2 on my list. The 306 yards, yeah, that's great. Not as great as what other people were doing, like Tom Brady that had 341. But 38-10 in a convincing win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2006, I have to give it to him because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a very good defense at the time. So for that reason, I'm going with Tony Romo as my number 2.
I'm absolutely baffled by the pick, and I absolutely cannot stand the pick. How'd you choose him over Matt Stafford throwing 5 TDs?
Well, like I said, Matthew Stafford wasn't putting up 22 of 29 in passing. That's, like I said, 76%. Out of all the passes that he threw on Thanksgiving Day, he made 76% of those passes. So for that reason alone, I had to give it to him. I
Is this when he was
understand.
getting a good from Jessica Simpson?
I'm not sure, but it was in 2006, so you
I'm
tell
pretty
me. I'm
sure.
not positive.
Pretty sure. Might have
But
had something to do with it.
this was the year that everybody thought that Tony Romo was going to step up and catapult himself into that conversation with Brady and Manning. It didn't end up happening because 2006 was really his peak, 2006, 2007. But then after that, he kind of started to drop. He kind of looked more like an Eli Manning. But in 2006 and 2007, he was a phenomenal quarterback. And as much as I hate saying it because I'm not a Cowboys fan, he has to be on this list.
Hot take is Tony Romo's a better broadcaster than football player. Moving on, we have number 1. I think it's the same for both of us. In the past 25 years, there's nothing really you can top. 6 TDs in 3 quarters. Didn't even have to play the 4th quarter. You're talking about completions percentage. He's 23 of 28 in this game.
Exactly.
That's even better than That's even better than Tony Romo. 3 TDs to Brandon Stokely. That's a name. 3 TDs to Marvin Harrison Sr. That's a name. And I watched the highlights of this game just for this episode right here, and there was nothing that any team could have done to stop this Colts team in this game.
Correct.
They had 4 3-and-outs, and I think it was mainly because Peyton Manning overthrew his receiver 2 times on both of those drives. And those were his 5 incomplete passes. And if he makes those connections, realistically, Peyton Manning could have had 8 TDs in this game, maybe even 9 if he played the
which
4th.
which is crazy to think about. Crazy.
Absurd, obscenity, crazy. I mean, and it was surgical. It was diabolical. It was everything. Dot after dot, moving down the field. The wide receivers making plays, runs after the catches. Couple diving for the pylon. Stokely had a dive for the end zone. Marvin Harrison had a dive for the end zone. Man, I was only 7 at the time of the game, so I don't really remember the game live like that. But after watching those highlights again, I had some reminiscing about it, and I was like, oh, I gotta remember when they torched these kids. But Peyton Manning, shout out to GOAT. Oh, only other one with 6 TDs was Bob Grease. I I don't know. And he was in the 70s, like
Yeah.
1977 or something like that. So, I mean, it took almost 30 years for somebody to even come close to that again. So,
Yeah, no, I agree 110%. Tied first with most touchdowns in uh, a, a, a Thanksgiving game, but 6 touchdowns. We're lucky to see a quarterback throw 2 touchdowns a game, never mind 4 or 5 or 6. So the fact that Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and even Tony Romo was putting up these kind of numbers on Thanksgiving Day was crazy. And it's not like it's a shootout either, because nowadays, if they go up 20 points, they stop playing. It's 41-9, and they're still trying to get more touchdowns at the end of the, like, this is what I'm talking about. And with the Indianapolis Colts, like I said, the other team was not scoring. The Detroit Lions were not scoring on the defense, so it's not like it was a close game where Peyton Manning needs to step up. No, he was comfortable the whole game. It's like he was just throwing like darts to his son or something like that. Peyton Manning had one of, if not the best Thanksgiving performance that we have ever seen in NFL history.
for sure. And if you watch those highlights too, when as soon as Manning hiked the ball, he already knew where it was going. Like before, like he got the ball and went here and it was out. It was crazy. They were dialed in.
Another honorable mention that I have for this, because we talked about Calvin Johnson that had 3 touchdowns, and we talked about, other guys that had a few touchdowns here and there. Like you said, Marvin Harrison Sr. doesn't get talked about enough with Peyton Manning. This duo was really, if it wasn't for the New England Patriots, this team would have been looked at as one of the best teams in the NFL, or even the best team in the NFL that we have seen since the 90s. So for me, I have to put Marvin Harrison in my honorable mentions as well, because 3 touchdowns is nothing to, be like, huh, Calvin Johnson did it, and Marvin Harrison did it. So therefore, Marvin Harrison did it with less yards and less receptions than Calvin Johnson did, which is why we put Calvin Johnson up here. But Marvin Harrison has to be on that honorable mentions list for less
Well,
than 5
Brandon
as well.
Stokely did. Brandon Stokely
Stokely as
did
well.
three
Stokely as well.
TDs in that game.
Stokely as well.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you indulged yourself. I hope you ate everything that you possibly could within reason. Don't put yourself in a position to call out. Make sure you eat responsibly, okay? Eat and drink responsibly. I know I'm gonna. Um,
Yeah.
so that's a live five with us. Thank you for joining us as always. From the guys at Live Zone Sports Podcast, the Extra Point, Live Five List, Mozzie, Live Zone, East Coast Sports Investors, everybody on the team. Shout out X, the producer, makes this happen for us. We love you always. Shout out Jeff, everybody on the team, everybody who's doing their part. We appreciate you. Hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving as well. Live Zone, I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving as well. And to all the beautiful people out there, I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving as well.
Yeah, 110% agreed. I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving. I hope everybody lives it up. Had a good time watching a little bit of football. Had some good food, maybe some leftovers the next day, you know what I'm saying? Because we love our leftovers. But yeah, I mean, as always,
Stay tuned.